Tonight, several breaking stories as we come on the air. President Biden taking drastic action on the U.S.-Mexico border. How soon could much of the border be shut down? Also breaking, cell phone service disrupted for millions across this country tonight. Users affected in New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and across multiple states. First tonight, President Biden's new executive action on immigration set to go into effect at midnight. The president's tight new restrictions limiting the number of asylum seekers, allowing him to temporarily close the border when the daily average goes above more than 2,500 in between legal ports of entry. Also developing tonight, those cell phone outages reported across the U.S. Millions of AT&T customers saying they cannot make calls to phones on other networks. Erielle Reshef with what we know so far. The life-threatening heat wave tonight this early in the season. Multiple states from California to Texas. Triple-digit temperatures and a new round of severe storms possible, including tornadoes from Mississippi to Minnesota. Ginger Z has the forecast. In New York City, 2 young girls shot and wounded on a playground, just 9 and 11 years old. On Capitol Hill, the combative hearing, Attorney General Merrick Garland defending the Justice Department from allegations of political bias, reminding lawmakers they had no role in Donald Trump's conviction in New York. The first witness takes the stand in the Hunter Biden gun trial. The prosecution entering Hunter Biden's laptop as evidence. What the defense claimed today, Terry Moran in Delaware. The woman attacked by a bison at Yellowstone National Park, the bison lifting her off the ground. The couple magnet fishing in New York City.
Oh, it is! Stacks of bills, dude.
The amazing catch tonight, what they pulled out of the water. And America Strong tonight, the newborn and his first photo shoot. Why his face is making everyone else smile.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening, and it's great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. We'll get to those cell phone outages, the disruption for millions, some AT&T users from New York City to Philadelphia to Chicago, multiple states as well. But we do begin tonight with President Biden taking drastic action on immigration and on the U.S.-Mexico border, strictly limiting the asylum process, set to close the border to migrants crossing illegally when asylum numbers hit more than 2,500 along the border in between legal ports of entry. The president saying he had no choice but to take executive action because he says Republicans in Congress rejected the bipartisan bill they negotiated themselves in the Senate, containing many of the very reforms Republicans had been demanding. They rejected it at the urging of Donald Trump. Of course, immigration and crossings at the border, a key issue in this presidential election. So the question tonight, how soon could the border be shut down? ABC's Rachel Scott leading us off at the White House tonight.
President Biden taking sweeping executive action to address the crisis at the border, announcing plans to strictly limit the asylum process and a move that will temporarily close the border to migrants crossing illegally at midnight tonight.
I've come here today to do what the Republicans in Congress refuse to do. Take the necessary steps to secure our border.
It comes after Republicans in Congress rejected a tough bipartisan border deal at the urging of Donald Trump, who wants to run on the issue. Under today's new executive action, when migrant apprehensions average 2,500 a day over the course of a week, the asylum process for people crossing illegally would automatically shut down. They would no longer be allowed to stay in the United States while their claims are being processed.
Doing nothing is not an option. We have to act. We must act consistent with both our law and our values as Americans.
The restrictions would only be lifted when apprehensions drop to 1,500 a day or less for 2 weeks. We haven't seen numbers that low in years. The president says there would be limited exceptions for unaccompanied children and victims of human trafficking. And he insists his position on immigration is far different than Donald Trump.
Well, I will never demonize immigrants. I'll never refer to immigrants as poisoning the blood of a country. And further, I'll never separate children from their families at the border.
Today, Trump says Biden is only doing this because he's desperate.
Crooked Joe Biden is pretending to finally do something about the border. But in fact, it's all about show because he knows we have a debate coming up in 3 weeks. The truth is that Joe Biden's executive order won't stop the invasion. It's weak and it's pathetic.
Progressive Democrats warn Biden's move could backfire.
They think it's going to bring Republicans over or some independents. I don't think it does. And I think in the end, we end up hurting the very people that we're fighting for.
But the mayor of Laredo, who stood with Biden today at the White House, tells me the president had no choice.
What type of impact is this going to have where you live?
Well, first of all, we don't have all the resources to deal with the migrants coming to our borders, especially medical services. We're medically underserved as it is, and we don't have a lot of infrastructure. And being able to deal with poverty and people that are homeless would be another situation that we don't want to have that happen in our community.
David, this new policy will be triggered when the daily average of migrant apprehensions exceeds 2,500 for the week. Tonight, administration officials tell us we have already passed that threshold, which means starting tonight at midnight, the border will temporarily be shut down for migrants trying to enter the United States illegally and claim asylum. David.
So this starts in just hours. Rachel Scott at the White House. Rachel, thank you. We turn now to those major disruptions for millions of AT&T customers unable to make calls to other networks. At least 24 states and major cities, New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Indianapolis, among those reporting major issues tonight. ABC's Erielle Reshef now with late reporting here.
Tonight, AT&T says they have fixed a massive issue that left customers from coast to coast unable to make or receive calls to another carrier. The website Down Detector, which tracks self-reported outages, showing New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Indianapolis among those cities with the most reports of issues. AT&T confirming in a statement that there is a nationwide issue that is affecting the ability of customers to complete calls between carriers. AT&T says a notice they sent to 911 call centers that emergency services were affected was sent in error, and 911 calls are operating normally at this time. Back in February, AT&T customers in major cities all over the country lost cell service for hours. That included emergency services, 911 in multiple states, and FirstNet, a nationwide network for first responder and police communication. The FCC opened a formal investigation into the cause, which AT&T blamed on a technical error while expanding their network.
And David, the FCC says it is investigating this issue. It's still unclear how many of AT&T's 100 million customers have been affected. David?
All right, we know you'll stay on it for us. Erielle Reshef tonight. Erielle, thank you.